The first 3 chapters of Mother 3 are distinctive from the rest of the game because they all explore the same time frame through the lens of many different characters. It gives us the opportunity to see new sides of Tazmily's residents, as their mannerisms can change depending on who's in the party. When Alec accompanied his son-in-law on his journey to the Drago Plateau, he worked to lighten the mood by cracking dumb jokes, but when we approach him as Salsa the monkey, we're able to see a more solemn side to the man as he grieves for his daughter in solitude. In the time that Flint is out searching for Klaus in the mountains, Duster can check in on Lucas, who is understandably no longer able to sleep peacefully at night, following his mother's death and his brother's disappearance. Like a great tapestry, these extra details and plot threads are intertwining to create the huge, beautiful image that is Mother 3. Now, after switching protagonists one final time, the story does nothing but move forward chronologically. We play as Lucas for the first time since the prologue, after a 3-year time skip as Tazmily is revealed to have changed drastically, for the better and for the worse. Back when this game was cancelled for release on the Nintendo 64, Shigesato Itoi described the Nowhere Islands pre-time skip as a strange place you can't quite decipher between the Middle Ages or the Old West. It's a stark change of a main setting from the first 2 games, which took place in urban, modern-day, at the time, cities like this new Tazmily. So for a lot of Mother fans that went into 3 expecting a similar kind of atmosphere, this is where the game really begins. What was once a rustic, primitive little village is now a sprawling, technologically advanced town. There are transportation systems in place, with paved roads and a railway, along with plenty of expanding businesses, like Jackie's grandiose hotel in place of a cozy inn. That's because Tazmily now uses currency, replacing the residents' old system of bartering, or simply taking what they needed for free. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What is unquestionably disagreeable, though, is the fact that Tazmily is now under control of the opposition. Facade has essentially won. With Duster missing, he's been able to silence Wes. So with no real threat to his rule, the man's convinced nearly everyone to accept a happy box. And the few who haven't yet converted, like poor Reggie here, have their homes bombarded by Mother fans, lightning strikes. This means that Alec's log cabin in the mountains, where the game originally started us off, has been sadly reduced to rubble, and Lucas's home has become a frequented tourist spot, Tazmily's famous lightning house. While the sheep for some reason don't seem to mind, their fur's been scorched and the barn's been burned down. The pigmasks, through manipulation or their own delusion, use the remnants of these recalcitrants' homes as an example of what happens when you refuse their reign. Villagers like Isaac have really embraced the pigmasks and what they're doing, to the extreme that he's now convinced the plain animals that once populated the forest years ago were boring. You like these slitherhens better? Really? And you're going to admit that to Lucas, of all people, who lost his mother to a chimera? Not all hope is lost, though. When Lucas interrupts a conversation between Jackie and Bronson concerning Duster's whereabouts, he gets clued in about a Duster lookalike, Lucky, a legendary bass player part of the rock group DCMC, who perform live at the interestingly named club Titiboo. This entertainment venue is exclusive to factory workers employed by the Pigmasks, who are enlisting diggers here for 2 major reasons. The first is to unearth clay as material to make more soulless soldiers that are brought to life by a jolt of electricity. The second reason, though, is a secret objective: to try and uncover a rumored underground dragon that's unbelievably huge, as big as the Nowhere Islands. That is going to be important later, so for now, let's just discuss the growing army of servants that never complain. Shigesato Itoi mentioned that the inspiration behind the Claymen are actually mythological tales and folklore about the creation of humans. One could argue that these Claymen are people too, forced into slave labor the moment they're born and ordered to continue on without breaks until they run out of energy. It's only when they are no longer physically able to exert themselves that they get a recharge, and even then, it's back to the workforce right away. Whatever Itoi's intention, he hoped that players would get a taste of the Claymen's sadness and endless sorrow when they look at them. How depressing. To be perfectly honest, I didn't really reflect on the Claymen in a profound way when I first reached this point in the game. I suppose I thought of them more as a type of brainless robot, but Itoi seems to have implied here that they have feelings too. Pair that with the agonizing sounding moans despite drudging along for their heartless masters, and you've got a disturbing existence that deserves our pity. This all makes the game's ending even sadder than it already is, watching this abandoned Clayman breaking its back for nobody, while marching diligently to its doom. As for the human factory workers, they all appear to be fine with their positions, but everyone seems to only be doing it for the tickets to Club Titiboo. One of several distractions from a menial, monotonous job the pigmasks implemented likely as a way to keep themselves and their laborers just content enough to not revolt. While some workers, like the aforementioned Isaac, have become fully dedicated to working hard and climbing that corporate ladder. But I can see the factory being an allegory for the grueling job conditions of real-world big business juggernauts like Amazon. The goal of this chapter is to reach said factory, then work part-time there to gain access to Club Titiboo and see if the bum-looking musician really is Duster. But both buildings are quite a ways from Tazmily. The factory workers travel there by train at a heavily reduced rate. Lucas is not yet employed though, so in order to make it there quickly, he has to traverse the tracks by foot. It's a dangerous departure, even when dismissing the increasingly deadly chimeras that lurk in the tunnel and beyond. The biggest threat to Lucas's life? The train itself. In fact, it'd be so half-witted to enter unprepared that a pair of brothers stop Lucas repeatedly, saving his life if he tries to run through at the wrong time. It's darkly funny to me that they're convinced Lucas won't stop trying due to a sheer self-destructive urge. Made a little disturbing if you know about Lucas's actions in The Third Lie, the book featuring the character of the same name Mother 3's Lucas was inspired by. If you don't know what I'm talking about or want to learn more, I'll link my video series along with an updated write-up I did for Mother Forever, so you can see the many ways in which Agoda Christoph's depressing book trilogy relates to this game. You are legitimately able to be hit by a train, which sends you all the way back to Tazmily, so the Mr. T lookalike twins' warnings do have merit. Nevertheless, Lucas is eventually able to convince the first one of his own capability, and he'll discover even more of that potential as a result of what he finds within the tunnel. I should probably have saved the next topic for another episode of Nintendo Innuendo, but I thought it was worth addressing here on Dark Aspects anyway because of how unforgettable a moment it is. You might remember Ionia, a powerful Magypsy last seen with Eolia, the one who recognized Klaus's potential and taught him an unmanageable psychic technique. 3 years later, Ionia is seen again in different circumstances, foreshadowed by a pile of traditionally feminine-looking clothes lay strewn on the ground below a cliffside hot spring. Naturally, climbing the ladder and entering the bath reveals a startled Magypsy, who is currently stark naked. Despite interrupting a private soak, Ionia offers to enlighten Lucas and awaken his budding magical potential. The scene that follows is seemingly worrisome, as the nude, longevous human-like entity approaches the boy and the screen fades to black. Our imagination is left to fill in the blanks, as uncomfortable dialogue telling him not to struggle is all we have to work with. Then, the picture comes back and Lucas emerges from underneath the water with a wealth of new talents. So what happened here, and why is it so suggestive? Well, the answer is that nothing really obscene took place during this sequence. I've heard some fans explain it as a sort of baptism, a spiritual ritual that unlocks powers of the psyche, and I like that, but my interpretation is that his powers awakened as a fight or flight defense mechanism. Being held underwater and having nearly drowned, his body was pushed to its absolute limit. Perhaps in the world of Mother 3, it takes a near-death experience or an intense physical stress to be able to realize these psychic powers. That does fall in line with all the other times Sai has learned in this game. My point is that it's clear nothing provocative occurred here, but to say it's innocent would be incorrect because the implications were intentional. Itoi made it this way to raise eyebrows, a story development he says only a grown-up could have created. He goes on to explain how he did not write this encounter with a child's heart in mind. Rather, He wanted to approach things from an older man's perspective. In the future, if I happen to live to be 90 years old, I want one of those kids to come to me as a grown-up and say, "A long time ago, in 3rd grade, I played Mother 3. I was really nervous and confused about what was going on in the hot spring in that tunnel, and that's what led me to the place I am today." It's also worth noting that this is the first time Lucas and Klaus have their identities confused in the story by an outsider, as when Ionia first meets Lucas, the boy is mistaken for his twin. This is another element that's important to remember later, as we'll discuss in the next chapter. With exception to PK Starstorm and Teleport from the previous Mother games, new Psi abilities typically came with higher levels of experience. In Mother 3 though, there are several more Psi moves realized in all kinds of crazy ways beyond Lucas's awakening. Like the second game's Prince Pooh, Kumatora is taught the mystical PK Starstorm, but instead of mastering it off-screen, we're shown a brutal way in which it's learned. Lucas learns PK Flash in a similar manner, but by unlucky coincidence when he's struck by a bolt of lightning in an unmissable cutscene. I suppose that's faster than training. And even though there are still plenty of techniques locked behind levels like the previous games, they aren't learned instantaneously this time, because it hits the Psi user as a sickness to overcome, a fever that has them sweating and disables their ability to run. Itoi, as the eccentric visionary he is, specifically equates this concept to that of menstruation. One of Itoi's themes with Mother 3, and really the Mother series as a whole, starting with Ninten's asthma causing him to miss in battle, is representing the physiology of the human body. Itoi believes that whenever a human being develops or learns a new ability, the body really takes a beating. So whenever he's feeling sluggish and exhausted, he's absolutely certain that good things will follow. When you're given an overwhelming problem you just can't deal with, the only way to cope with it is to completely mobilize your heart and your mind and make a strenuous effort to get through it. This quote really resonated with me when I first read it, because ever since I was a child I've suffered from migraines, intense headaches that leave me completely at the mercy of the agony I'm experiencing. I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I've had curled up on the bathroom floor or pulled over in my car somewhere waiting for it to pass. Itoi's positive interpretation of what it means to make it through the pain has given me an optimistic outlook, when it's far easier to dwell on the negative and think, why is this happening to me? To get real for a moment, I've been able to use this as motivation for mental illness as well. Back in high school, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, but I've had it for much longer, about 14 years now. For those that aren't familiar, it basically means that for most of the day, every day, I'm having some kind of irrational, intrusive thought, which gives me varying degrees of anxiety that will not dispel until an action, a compulsion, is performed to get rid of it. Doing so offers temporary relief, but fuels an endless cycle when another unwanted fear enters my brain. It's like an internal alarm going off 24/7 telling me that something is seriously very wrong. OCD is a draining, chronic illness that takes a lot away from me. But in many ways, I genuinely believe that it has made me a better person. To try and quell its symptoms, I make an effort to take care of myself, and I'm always looking into wellness options. I'm also very empathetic and patient with other people because you never know what they're going through on the inside. And this philosophy of growing stronger through pain Itoi's integrated into his games has given me a fresh perspective. It helps me remember that not all turmoil is needless suffering. In some situations, great things can follow. For Lucas, there's an actual light at the end of the tunnel, or not, the factory is kind of sad, but he reaches it nevertheless. After performing dull tasks, he finally earns a ticket to the nightclub, but because he's underage and because of a strict no-dog policy, Lucas and Boney are denied access. Or they would have been if Kumatora hadn't vouched for them simply being mistaken for a kid and a dog. Yes, Boney, aka Woof, the dog-like dude, thankfully keeps up this ridiculous disguise for a good while longer. Kumatora herself has been working undercover as a waitress at Club Titiboo for the same reason Lucas is here, to try and talk to Duster. So now that they're all here, They have to seize the opportunity tonight. Once they are able to meet with him, it's learned that Duster's become an amnesiac, perhaps due to accidentally activating the hummingbird egg's power to contain a person's memories, meaning he's not sure what his life was like before he joined the DCMC. Destiny calls though, so he's willing to travel with the pack of misfits anyway, leaving behind his bandmates as an emotional farewell sends the heroes off to yet again try and retrieve this mysterious egg. Lucas, Duster, Kumatora, and Boney. These are the 4 main characters that will see the game through to its end, finally all together in one party. I hope you'll join me for Dark Aspects of Mother 3 Chapter 5, where I'll discuss the Masked Man, as we disguise ourselves yet again and eventually face off against Facade. Thank you all for watching.